guys? Welcome back to Lily Reads. In today's video, we are going to be reading a collection of books. So it comes as no surprise, I have a book buying issue. I love to buy books, but I am going to say something that a lot of people who buy books would never admit. I do not buy every single book with the intention to read it anytime soon. There are some people who convince themselves that they bought a book and I'm going to get to this and I'm going to read this by the end of the year. I'm going to read this within the next month. They're lying to themselves. They're not going to do that. I know that I'm not going to read certain books anytime soon. There are books that I buy simply because I want to own them and one day I will read it. But I do not plan on that day being anytime soon. I know this is probably going to sit on my bookshelf for a little minute. But the thing about life is you're the one who's making the choices. You are the one who is making the bed. And you get to decide how that bed looks. So I decided I am going to read, 5 books that I definitely bought with the intention of letting them stare at me for a year or two, but I'm going to read them now. I have bought all of these books in the last year, and I'm going to get to them, but I know I bought all of these books with the intention to let them sit. They're just not books that I really gravitate towards. So I said, we're changing that. We are changing that. You gotta break old habits. And in order to break old habits, you gotta do new stuff. So these are the 5 books we are going to read this week. The first book is Girl A by Abigail Dean. I got my hands on this book either late last year or early this year. I think it was early this year. And this is a book that would 100% sit on my shelf until 2028. I know it because it's just like a book that I'm like, what is this even about? I haven't even heard anything about it, but no, I'm going to read it now and we're going to figure out what it is about. The next book is a book called Death Valley by Melissa Broader. The reason why I know this book would sit on my bookshelf for a very long time is because I bought it because it was on sale. I would see this book at the bookstore and I'm like, ooh, I would like to read that. Ooh, I would like to read that. But I never really bought it, never really put it on a list of books I wanted to buy, never got it from the library. And if I don't intentionally try to get my hands on you, I probably don't want to read you that bad. But then I saw this book for 50% off and I was like, I'm going to buy it, right? And I know I have no intention of actually reading it anytime soon. The cover doesn't really call my name. I don't know what it's about, but now we're going to get to it. We're breaking bad curses. We're going to read it. The next book is The Whispers by Ashley Aldrin. I read The Push by this author. I gave The Push 3.5 stars. Got my hands on this one, but I have not heard anyone talk about this book. And it's just girl, this is another mystery thriller type of book that you're just gonna let sit on your bookshelf because you have so many of them. And so I'm gonna read it. I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. I have no clue what it's about, but it should be a good time. The next book is a book that is very popular. It always gets high reviews. I purchased it because someone on Instagram gave it they had an advanced copy. And I was like, ooh, when I can get my hands on that book, I will. And so eventually I got my hands on this book. But it's not really a Kenya book. And I'm I know people like this book. People I respect like this book. So I bought it. But I know I'm never going to reach towards it. Well, that changes. We are going to read Right by Sarah Rose Etter because I've heard nothing but good things about this book. And I will never reach for this book. I have so many books I feel are like this on my bookshelf. And I got to start getting to them. More on that a little bit later when we talk about my 2025 bookish goals, my reading goal, I always give myself every year a reading goal, a reading challenge. That's the word. I give myself a reading challenge. And I did so well with my reading challenge this year. We'll talk about that as well in a later video. That in 2025, I'm doing another one. The last book, The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. This book had its time, it's had its moment, and now it's time for me to have a moment with this book. I bought this book because it was hyped. I was believing the hype. You can tell I got my hands on it late because I got a paperback of it. And I bought it, but it's just is this a Kenya book? I don't think so, but I'm gonna read it because this is one of those books that would sit on my bookshelf and then I'll unhaul it in 2027. I know me. I know me. I will let this book sit on my bookshelf. You know, it's had its day. Maybe even something will get spoiled about this book, or somebody will give it a bad review and I'll be like, oh, I don't need to read that book anymore. And then I end up unhauling it and never reading it. So I'm gonna stop. And yes, those are the 5 books we are going to read in this video. We are going to start off reading The Measure. Why? Because I think it's the book I want to read the least. So let's start with The Measure, and yeah, let's get this video going. Hello, you guys, and good morning. I have my coffee, and I am here to give initial updates on a book Kenya has been reading. I started reading The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. I have actually made it almost all the way through this book, but I didn't know when it was the right time to come and give you guys an update. So let me tell you what this book is about. In this book, we are immediately dropped into this world where everyone has received a box. Every adult has received a box. And in this box, there is a string. People quickly realize that these strings are your life expectancy. If you have a short string, you are going to die relatively soon. If you have a long string, you are going to live a long life. And of course, this starts to cause chaos. Quickly, the short stringers begin to be like persecuted. They begin to be treated differently. People decide that they shouldn't hold office. They shouldn't have serious jobs. They shouldn't be school teachers because their string is short and they are a liability. Because short stringers start committing like atrocities. They start doing mass shootings. They start blowing things up just because they don't know how to deal with the fact that they are going to die soon. Short stringers start going into hospitals trying to get tests to figure out what they are going to die from. So they have to start turning away short stringers at hospitals because like they can't really do anything about it. Then you have long stringers. Long stringers start taking risk with their life. They're doing ketamine. They're doing all types of drugs, jumping out of buildings and all of this stuff because they know they are going to live a long time. So in this book, the story is told through a bunch of characters. We have like literally an ensemble cast and they all have relationships to each other. You have some people who are couples. You have some people who are just, single and dealing with the fact that they have a short string. You have some people whose parents are politicians, some people who are in the military, and some of them have long strings, some of them have short strings, and you're just going in their life and seeing how they're affected by the long strings and short strings. So like, for example, you have a woman who has a long string, but her wife has a short string. You have a guy who is switching strings with somebody because they've decided short stringers can't be in the military. So like he switches his string so he doesn't have to be in the military. You have a politician. He has a long string and he's kind of starting this campaign against people who have short strings so he can win an election. So there's all different types of things that are going on. Everyone is in different circumstances. The short stringers have started support groups for their being short stringers, dealing with the fact that their life is going to end soon. Science is starting to catch up to this type of stuff because no one knows who dropped the strings. Nobody knows where the strings came from, who did this, but science is trying to figure out, like, can you get a precise date on when someone is going to die? And as the book goes on, the science gets better. And yeah, you're just dealing with, people in these strings. This type of book, I don't know if I want to just be like, this is an anti-Kenya book, because that's not true. This is a book Kenya will never give 5 stars. Stay with me. Books that are like high on concept, but like low on like character development, character arcs and stuff, is not my thing. I always tell people I am a character person. I like strong characters, good narrative voices being put in a situation. I like following characters throughout a journey. I love the highs and the lows. So I'm more of a character-driven person than I am a concept person. And I think concept and plot also are 2 totally different things as well. Like, some people are big on concept. I think that's why a lot of people like books like The 7-Year Slip, Una Out of Order, The Husbands, books like that. When you are a person who can really dive into a concept concept, you like books like this. The Midnight Library, the one by John Mars, all of those books are high on concept. There's an idea that's being, given to you. Then you have books that are like high on plot. There's just a lot of plot that's going on. There's a lot of things going on. Think people who like fantasy books, things like just very high plot type of books. Then you have people like me. We are big on characters. Now, in a perfect world, you get a good character and you get a good plot all together. That's my favorite type of literary fiction. But we're the people who really like literary fiction. We like long, drawn out, boring books, because we just like following characters doing interesting things or in an interesting predicament. So, I am the furthest thing from a concept person. You cannot wow me by a good concept. You simply can't. Like, you can tell me a book is about something and I'm looking at you like, should I care? Like, I just don't care about concepts. So books like this where the concept is the entire thing, it's just not for me. I will never give it 5 stars. And I was talking about this when I read The Midnight Library earlier. The biggest reason why it's hard for me to get on board with concept books is that in the end, most of them have the exact same thing that they are trying to say. They are trying to hit on some type of social commentary about life, about the way we treat each other, about how you should see life. And this book has the exact same message that The Husbands has. It has the exact same message as Una Out of Order. It has the exact same message as The Midnight Library. And that message is to enjoy your life. To enjoy your life. You never know when you're going to die. You never know. Just live. And like, do I need a book to tell me that? Do I need a book to tell me that? But these types of books, it literally says it on the cover. Marie Claire says, perfect for book clubs. These are like book club types of books. Also, a lot of people don't read a lot of books. Me and you, we read a lot of books all year, right? So like, if you're someone who doesn't read a lot of books, you want one book, 2 books, maybe 5 books a year to like really give you a message. You're looking for a book that has a message, a book that might stay with you. And that's what these books are for. These are very airport type of books as well. And I don't have an issue with that. I don't think these things should not exist. There is an audience for books like this. That's why they become so popular. I am not the audience. These types of heavy concept, immediately when this book started, I knew it wasn't for me. I was like, oh, it's one of those books. It's one of those books and it's not for me. I will say a book like The Midnight Library or even The Husbands, I could see myself liking more because you are at least following one character through this concept. You guys know me with a bunch of POVs is not... I'm not the girl who loves a bunch of POVs. And so this has a lot. And you're just never supposed to get that deep into anybody's life in this book because that's not the point. Nothing is bigger than the concept. That's the thing about a concept book. Nothing is bigger than the concept. Nothing is bigger than the idea that this book is trying to nail home. And that's just not for me. So I am going to finish this book, but I am going to finish this book and give it 3 stars. I'm going to finish this book and give it 3 stars like I always give books like this. It's just not my favorite thing in the world. But some people are heavy concept people. There's a lot of them over on BookTube. And that's why these books become popular because they're for somebody. And I don't think it's a bad thing that they're for someone. They're just not for me. And so I don't think they're anti-Kenya books. So the one by John Mars, I thought was perfectly enjoyable, but it had thriller, horror elements that I gravitate to. That's why I enjoyed a book like that. So it's not impossible for me to enjoy books like this. That's why they're not anti-Kenya books, but rarely. I'm never going to give them 5 stars. Never. They just don't scratch that itch I need. Anyways, I look like this in this raggedy shirt. Alabama lost yesterday, so I should take this off because it's kind of humiliating losing to the Sooners. But I gotta go paint. I'm painting. I'm still figuring out this board and batten wall, which is kind of becoming the bane of my existence at this point. But I had to paint over all of the swatches. So now we're back to a base color. It's still going to be white because I've actually decided that I might keep it white. And then we're doing a wallpaper. It's a thing. It won't be actualized till well into the new year. So don't act like I didn't even say that. By the way, also, you won't see this to the next vlog. That's the paint child. I got my Christmas stuff out. I've taken up all of my Thanksgiving stuff. Thanksgiving is over. I've decided Thanksgiving hasn't come yet, but I've decided I've taken up all my Thanksgiving stuff. It is time for Christmas trees. I can't believe it's that time of the year again, but I am so excited. So, anyways, I'll talk to you guys when I finish this real quick, give you guys my 3-star review that I know is coming. And yeah, peace. Dinner tonight is gonna be some broccolini. I'm gonna make a mash. I love mashed potatoes, yet I rarely make mashed potatoes. So I bought some half and half, and I'm like, since I have half and half, I'm gonna make a mash. It's gonna be good. And the star of the show, I made a pot roast. You can't see, it's really, really dark. I didn't do any veggies with it since we're gonna do a mash. And I have broccoli. So we'll just put the mash over the potatoes and then over the broccoli, and that is going to be dinner. Anyways, I'm still working on the board and batten down this hall. Trying our best. We're making it slowly. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the morning about our next book. Peace. Hello, you guys. I'm just gonna come back really quickly and give this book 3 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think this book was well written. I think it was interesting enough. It just wasn't fully for me. I like to feel emotional about books. I like books to make me feel something, whether it be upset, happy, mad, something in between. I don't know. And that's not this book. I did not care about any of these characters. Nothing about this felt all that real. And I know, of course, it's a book about getting strings telling you when your life is going to end. It's not real, but it just something about it just feels like made up. And I know that sounds crazy because of course it's made up, but you can get fiction. Everything I read on this channel is pretty much fiction, and I still think things feel real. Something about this it was just hard to really care or really feel the stakes in any of this. I just think, like I said, when it comes to a lot of concept books, you're just there to see how everything is going to shake out in the end. And I thought the way everything shook out in the end was perfectly fine. So I'm going to give this book 3.5 stars. I kind of went out of my way to get this book, and I do regret that. This is definitely a book that if I would have never read, I would have been perfectly okay. But when it comes to books like this, sometimes I get a little bit curious and I end up reading them, unfortunately. But yeah, this book could have stayed where it was at. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was fine. So we are going to move on to the next book. I really, really hope this just doesn't sum up this entire vlog because we have such a mixed match of books. I hope okay doesn't end up summing up this entire vlog. I'm a little nervous, but I want a 5-star. I want to read a 5-star in this vlog. So we are going to move on to Girl A. Yeah, that's the next book, Girl A. I will see you guys once I start reading it. Peace. Hello, you guys. I am here to give initial thoughts on Girl A by Abigail Dean. Now, I want to start by saying that I am not sure when this book was published. This copy is from 2021. I'll put the date when this was originally published. Maybe this was written in 2021. I don't know. But this book is really popular, I think, just because simply every time I go to the used bookstore, I see the hardcover. And so, first of all, a book getting a paperback, it was popular enough for them to move it to paperback. And also, this has some quotes in it. New York Times bestseller. The reason why I'm bringing that up, I read a lot of popular books on this channel. I read mostly popular books. I'm not, sleuthing the bookstore for unknown titles. But I've never heard anything about this book. I have never heard anything about the book. The reason why I picked this book up is because I was at the bookstore and I read the synopsis and it sounded interesting, but I have never heard anyone read this book, recommend this book, talk about this book. And that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It's just something that's never stuck to my mind if people have talked about this book. So going into this book, I had no clue what this book was about. But let me tell you what this book is about. In this book, you are following a woman who, as a child, she survived her parents abusing her. That's the story. She survived her parents abusing her. So her mother just died in prison. Her mother got sentenced to 25 years in prison for what they did to her and her siblings. And her mother just died in prison, and she is going to pick up all her mother's stuff. Well, she finds out that she is like the person who is over her will. There's a word for that. She's the person over her mom's will. And something important is in the will. Basically, she has left the house to her kids. So they have a house, the house that they were being abused in. It was the mother's home. The home was in the mother's name because the father killed himself after the police came to get the children. And so now that she's dead, the home has to go to somebody, and it's going to the kids. Well, this kind of starts off our story because our main character decides that she wants to turn the house into a community center. She wants to turn the house into a community center and do all that. But in order to do that, she needs all of her siblings to sign off on it. So she has to get back in contact with all of her siblings. And through the book, we basically get to know all of her siblings and where they are at. We meet up with her oldest brother, Ethan. She has another brother named Gabriel, another brother named Noah. She has a sister she doesn't talk to named Delilah. And there is another character in this book called Evie. Evie is quite interesting because I think if there is a mystery or something to this book, it's the Evie character. I don't know if Evie's real. I do not know if Evie is a real person, only because our main character keeps saying that her and Evie discussed something, but we've never had Evie in this story at all. So I feel like that's too obvious that Evie isn't a real character. So when they were being abused, their parents were like binding them to a bed, and she constantly talks about how Evie doesn't respond. Evie wasn't the one who jumped out of the window to get away. She says her and Evie decided to do the community center. When did that conversation take place? So like there's supposed to be another sibling, but like, is Evie real? Evie might be real, and I'm looking here like, girl, you was looking for something there that wasn't there. But I don't think Evie is real. There's probably something interesting about the circumstances that, isn't what actually meets the eye. I don't know, but I'm not trying to solve the mystery. I'm not trying to get ahead of the story because the thing is, I'm really enjoying this. This book is really interesting the way that it's told. Like you'll learn something in another passage and then it gets brought back up, but it doesn't get brought back up in a aha way. It gets brought back up in a like the story is continuing type of way. Like, oh, if you remember that connects this. It's making the reader do work. And you guys know that's my favorite thing. I like books that want the reader to actually engage with the words on the page, that actually want you to remember details, that actually want you to connect your own dots. It's not just spoon feeding you the plot. So I'm enjoying that. This book is kind of hard to read though at times. Not in a sense of like it's prose or anything, just like it's a deep subject matter. And I just read it really slowly. Like I'll do 10 pages here, 15 there. It's not something I want to keep going to, but that's not because of the writing or because it's not interesting. Number one, I don't really read books like this. So like that's not something I would just go and pick up on my own. And number two, it's a little heavy. So the biggest thing about this is that her father is like really religious. And I think something I've never tapped into that I should tap into is that people under like religious psychosis, people who do strange things behind religion and stuff, I'm actually kind of interested in that. Whenever that's an element in a book, I seem to really enjoy it. You guys know I love family dynamics, so that's at the root of this. The relationship that she has with all of her siblings is really, really good. Yeah, so I'm going to keep on reading this, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Okay, you guys, I finished Girl A, and I'm going to give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed my reading experience of this. I'm happy I read this book, but like this book really didn't stick the landing for me. And spoiler alert, if you don't want to be spoiled by this book, do not keep reading. So, in the last clip, I was right about the plot twist. The Evie sister, she was not alive. She was not alive. She died in the house due to the abuse. And, like, I knew that. When there is a character in a thriller or mystery novel, and, like, the plot twist is that they don't really exist, they're imaginary, they're dead, something like that, it's so easy. Out of all the plot twists that they are, it's the easiest plot twist for me to guess. And the reason why that is that once you have an inkling in your head that this is a thing, you're able to quickly realize if it is. So if you just for some reason come across this idea, like, does this person exist? You are going to spend the next 20 pages, 50 pages looking for all the examples that this character doesn't exist. And all of those examples are glaring if you've already thought this is a thing. So number one, nobody interacts with this character. This character is only in the plot when our main character brings up this character. Number two, this character has no object permanence. Like, the character is there when our main character is looking at them, but everybody else seems to not really interact with this character at all. People ignore the character. People sit like on the character sometimes, or too close to the character. Like, there's no object permanence. They don't seem like they're there all of the time. So it's just really easy to tell. So in this book, the big plot twist, like, somebody says that this is the biggest mystery thriller since Gone Girl. And it's just like, well, you made that shit up. Because, like, I wasn't gagged when we found out about the plot twist because I already guessed the plot twist. So then I was hoping there would be something a little more. And there was a little bit. So the thing I appreciate the most about this book, and what this book drives home to me, is how vulnerable kids are. Kids need to be a protected class. We are so mean to kids. In real life, we talk about kids terribly online. Like, kids are so vulnerable. Kids and old people are the two most vulnerable people in our society. And we just look over that fact that these types of people really need a lot of help, and their survival, their well-being they're basically, this sounds crazy, but they're like dogs in that way, where, like, they can't exist on their own. And they can become victims to the whims of their parents or their caretakers. And so many people's parents are fucking nuts, whether it be because they're in cults, whether it be because they're in a religious psychosis, whether it be because these beliefs they made up. Like, some people's parents are really nuts, and there's nothing you can do about that if you were just born to parents that suck. And I think we need to do a better job at honestly questioning people's parenting, saying certain things are not okay, what you're doing is not okay. And so that's what this opened my eyes up to. Kind of like, I don't believe in surveillance culture, but I do think when it comes to kids, if you have questions about something, you should raise those questions. And that's what this book highlighted really, really well. Another thing it highlighted really, really well is that abuse needs people to be a part of it. Like, it's really hard for one person to just abuse someone and that is it. There are people around who allow for this abuse. That's another thing it did really, really well. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, but it just didn't land it for me. In the end, I was just like, okay, once I accepted that this book was kind of like a thriller book, I was like, what else is there to it? So 3.5 is what this book gets, which is like, oh my gosh, is this going to be another vlog where every single book gets the exact same rating? I hope not. We're going to move on to Ripe, which I've heard really good things about, and we are going to see how that book goes. Okay, peace. Hello, you guys. I am here to give thoughts on Ripe. I'm actually almost done with this book. I didn't expect this book to read as fast as it is reading. So in this book, we are following a girl who is in her mid-20s. She is from the East Coast, I believe, but at this current moment, she is in Silicon Valley. So she is out there in San Francisco, and everything is bad. She works for this tech startup. This tech startup is trying to go public, so they're really working her to death. Everywhere she looks, she sees poverty. She sees people killing themselves, people crumbling under the stress, and she has just had enough. She is in a relationship with this guy who is also in a relationship with somebody else, and she finds herself unexpectedly pregnant by this guy, and she don't want no baby. She knows she cannot go home because she has a mother who seems to be kind of abusive, and her dad always told her, like, this is it, girl. This is it. You need to get away from this town and go do more with your life. So she's kind of just stuck here. She just got a letter telling her rent is going up. Well, the thing about this book is there has always been something else to our main character, and it is that she has always felt there is a black hole, and there are two parts of her. She has her fake self where, she goes into this job, she puts a smile on her face, she always wants to do her best. Then she has this other side, and when it comes to this other side, there is that black hole, this black hole that seems to open up and almost engulf her, this black hole that just takes over her whole life. She feels like she's gonna fall into it, and that's pretty much our main character. So in this type of book, you are in this character's head. You're in this character's head, and you're just seeing how she is affected by everything around her. And this is one of those books, I would compare it to Woman Eating, where, like, the more you read this book, even though things aren't really progressing, there's a sense of suspense that is starting to be built. You are building towards some type of moment. Like, our character is going to start to crumble at some point. The thing I'm really enjoying about this book is actually, like, the social commentary that this book is having, the commentary that this book is having on the way America treats people, the way, how tech has ruined our lives, basically, how hustle culture has ruined our life. Also in this book, there's a virus coming along. There's a virus coming along that everyone keeps ignoring. I am enjoying all of that, what this is saying about society, how we leave people out to dry. She lives near this fountain, and she sees people washing up in the fountain, and then, like, the juxtaposition of her tech startup company, them creating fake snow so they can have a snow day. Like, I love what it's doing there. This book is really good. This won't get a 5-star from me. This is just not Kenya's type of book. You guys know. I feel like I say that in every video. This is just, and I said it about The Measure. This is just not Kenya's type of book. Like, I think people who are into horror, people who are into these types of book where you, like, really get into the mind of someone who is literally at their wits' end, like they feel like they're going to self-destruct or destroy everything in front of them. Women Eating is a perfect example of that. Now, these types of books can work for me. A book like Chlorine, that book did work for me, but it had different types of elements that really appeal to my sensibilities, so that's why this is. But I'm enjoying this book more than I'm enjoying a book like Woman Eating or a book like Natural Beauty. Didn't love Natural Beauty either. I'm enjoying this book way more than Natural Beauty. So, like, this is, like, in the middle there. This is, like, giving 3.75 4 stars. I am really enjoying this book, though, and I'm happy I got my hands on it because it does read really easily, and I'm enjoying myself with that. Anyways, I am going to finish it today, and then we will move on to the next book, which will be The Whisper, I think. I don't know. How are you guys? I am about to go work out. As you can see, I'm going to put this little ditty on in a minute. Everybody always asks. It doesn't matter if I wear this in a vlog. It does not matter if I wear this in a Patreon video. Everyone always asks where this is from. This is from Free People. I'm pretty sure they still make it. It comes in a lot of colors. This is the shark color, I believe. It's from Free People. It's a full-on onesie. The back is out, and yes, that's what it is. I got a size way too big. I got it in a size too big, so I have to wear, like, a sports bra under it because this is where it would, like, stop if I did it. So I wear a sports bra, and I could just pull it up all the time, but it's just not worth it while I'm working out. But yeah, that is where I got this from. I got this from Free People. Anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Peace. I am here to give an update on the book Ashley Aldrin. Let me ask you guys this. On holidays, do you guys get good reading done? I get such good reading done on Christmas, Thanksgiving. Like, there's just a lot of downtime. You can just sit, you can just read. So I actually have some reading updates for you guys. And the book is The Whisper by Ashley Aldrin. I have read a book from this author in the past. It was called The Push. And so I think that this author's books like deal with motherhood. That's a big theme that this author likes to write about. So in this, we have a cast of characters. We have a character named Rebecca, Blair, and Whitney. So when we start off, the book starts off at a party. Whitney is throwing a party and everyone comes over to Whitney's house. Whitney is like the rich person in the neighborhood. She's polished. She's amazing. Well, everyone sees at the party Whitney yelling at her son and calling her son like a piece of shit. And from then on, everyone's just like, Whitney is strange. We go 9 months into the future, and Whitney has taken her son into the hospital because Xavier has fallen. Something has happened, and her son Xavier is in a coma. So we have Whitney's POV, and she's talking about like how she became a mother, how all of that stuff works, and how her life has been. Her life has not been great. Whitney does not enjoy being a mother. She sees everyone around her, and they just love being a mother. Motherhood is amazing to them, and Whitney doesn't feel that way. She doesn't feel like she has so much joy with being a mother. It just never really clicked for her. So that is Whitney and Whitney's life. Whitney does have a husband. Her and her husband seem to like each other, have an active sex life, all of that stuff. Now, Whitney is directly tied to a character named Blair. Blair is also a mother. Blair is the person who everyone looks at and it's like, oh, you're like that mother. That mother that's like hyper involved, that mother who's doing the PTA, she's doing the sports. She's not polished in a way that Whitney is, almost seems like it's a performance. Blair just seems like she was made for that stay-at-home mom life. And that is Blair. Well, we get into Blair's head and everything is not on the up and up because Blair is missing excitement from her life. She is tired of just being, super mom. She wants some excitement, and she gets her excitement through Whitney because we find out Blair has been breaking into Whitney's house to see what Whitney is up to. She got a crush on Whitney's husband, but it's more so she just envies her life. Blair believes that her husband is cheating on her. Blair's husband is the breadwinner in their house. She thinks that her husband is cheating on her. So that is what she is dealing with. Then we have Rebecca. Rebecca is in this story because Rebecca is a doctor. And she is a doctor, and she is the main doctor on call when Xavier is brought in by Whitney, and she is dealing with the fact that she is infertile. She's having a hard time getting pregnant. She's had 3 miscarriages, and she never really wanted to be a mom, but her husband wanted her to have kids, and so she kind of went with it. That's not me saying that she doesn't want to be a mom. We're just learning how she got into all of this. So that is all our characters. I think there's one more, though. There's one more character. Let me make sure. Oh, we also have a character named Mara. Mara is this old lady who's like 80 years old. She's been in the neighborhood longer than anybody, and she's like your nosy neighbor. Whitney is the polished one I was telling you about. Whitney also is the career woman in her family. Whitney is the breadwinner in her family. She's the one that strives for something. Her husband does not. So keep in mind, that's what Whitney's going through. Whitney is the one with Xavier. And she's the one who never actually wanted a kid. And like, she looks at women kind of crazy when they want children because she's like, why would you give your freedom away and stuff? So Whitney's always had an issue with kids. Blair is like super mom, but she's looking for something a little bit more. And Rebecca wants to get pregnant and all of that. And they all have their husbands. There's issue with their husband. Blair thinks her husband is cheating. Whitney thinks her husband needs more ambition. and Rebecca's husband is kind of like standoffish because he kind of like blames her for why they can't have kids because the issue is with her uterus. And that's pretty much it. How am I feeling about this book? Oh, you guys know I am loving it. You guys know I love mother dynamics. I love books about people being mothers and like people talking about the bad sides of being a mother. I love it so damn much. It's just one of those things in books that I enjoy. So this is right up my alley. I love a domestic thriller. That's right up my alley. The thing is, though, there is no clear mystery going on. I'm not quite sure what we're trying to figure out. I'm assuming we're trying to figure out what Whitney did to her son, like what happened to Whitney and her son. And these characters all are connected to one another. So, like, I guess trying to figure out more about that. But overall, I'm enjoying this book. There is a lot going on, as you can tell, but like all of it good. All POVs good. I just love getting into the messy lives of people in suburbia. And this book is doing that. And we're from the very jump realizing how all of these characters are connected. And that's what I'm enjoying, because a lot of times, you guys know I don't like books with like a lot of POVs, especially thrillers and mysteries. But I'm liking how we are from the jump figuring out how all of these characters are connected to each other and why they're connected to each other. So anyways, that is this book. I'm going to finish it. I don't feel like there's any need for me to like give you guys updates or anything like that. So I'm going to read this and Hello, you guys. I am coming to give a final update on The Whispers. My camera is saying I only have 2 minutes left on this memory card, and that's perfect because I have absolutely nothing to say about this book. This book gets a 2 out of 5 stars. This book completely never came to form. It was just a bunch of stuff happening. These characters were connected, but in nothing interesting. This book also became like this weird like sex book. Like everyone had the most bizarre sex drive you ever seen. And also everyone's motives just became really, really weak. Like I had no clue why anybody was doing anything. The only thing I can really give this book, why I'm gonna give it a 2 and not a 1, is because I do think this book is trying to have an interesting conversation about motherhood and how a lot of people come to regret being a mother, how some people, you know, they yearn for what they don't have, and you know, being a mother isn't all that great and there's good and there's bad. I do think there's a conversation that's interesting there, but this as like a thriller, mystery, or even like just a regular ass book, it is not good. Like this book is actually kind of bizarre at points. Like it becomes weirdly sexual. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And like I said, none of these people feel like real people because their motives just seem bizarre. I did not like this book. This was not for me. I probably will not be picking up anything else from this author. And I see why I haven't heard anyone talk about this book, because there's literally nothing to talk about. It's nothing. It's slop. Not good. 2 out of 5 stars. Definitely the worst book I have read so far in this video. So we are going to move on to our last book, and it is Death Valley. Hopefully that is where we can get a 5-star. Maybe Death Valley will be our 5-star. I don't know, but I'll come talk to you guys about that later. Peace. Hello, you guys. I am here to give initial updates on Death Valley by Melissa Broder. So in this book, we are following a 40-year-old woman, and we find out that she is going on a vacation. She is a novelist. She is a writer. It seems like she is a pretty successful writer. Seems like she writes literary fiction, and she is going to get away. The reason why she is getting away is because her father is in the hospital. He is on a ventilator. He has coded twice and had to be brought back to life via CPR, and she just needs to get away from everything. So she is going to Death Valley. So she is going to the California desert, and she is going to stay at a Best Western, and she is going to try and clear her head. As she is at the Best Western, she's kind of reflecting on her life and telling us, the reader, this is direct to reader, how she's really feeling. She's kind of feeling like she's at a crossroads in her life, and she's not happy about anything going on in her life. We find out that she is a recovering addict of what we don't know, but she is currently sober. We find out that her husband has a chronic illness, and it is an illness that like there really is no treat for. The doctors don't know what to do. She just like he has a hard time breathing, has a hard time with his digestion. It's just really really bad, and she's found herself like not attracted to him in a lot of ways. She's not attracted to him physically, but she's also just not attracted to like the life that he leads. He has to be in a wheelchair. He sleeps all day, he farts all day, and it's like it's not that she's unattracted to him in like an ableist type of way. She's unattracted to the fact that like if she is around him too much, she will turn into that. She will start to want to sleep all day. She will want her life to be slower, and she just doesn't want that for herself. So she's like at this crossroads, but her husband is very kind to her. He listens to her. So he's been trying to get in contact with her. She answers the phone sometimes she doesn't. She has a mom that is very religious and very pushy and very superstitious. So she doesn't really like to talk to her mom a lot about her dad. But the real crux of this story is the relationship between our main character and her father, and this idea of grief. She knows her dad is probably going to die soon, and she's just having conversations with herself about how she feels about that. How should she handle grief? How is she grieving someone who is not even actually dead yet? What is left of her life when her father dies? What's left of her life if her husband dies? Like, what is grief, and who is she when people around her start to die, and what has she made of her life? This book also has another element where she's starting to hallucinate. She's starting to go out into the desert and hallucinate things. Things are clearly not happening, but she believes they're happening. She's imagining that she's seeing her father as a child. She's imagining she's seeing her husband as a child. And that's pretty much what this book is about. This book, I have a few issues with this book. Number one, this book is really overwritten. Like every sentence like could be written regularly, but instead it's just like overwritten, over explained, like it's trying to be literary to the point of suffocating maybe a good story. So I do not like the writing. Another thing, we are in this world where people mistake hyper specificity for things being funny. So for example, someone will point out a universal truth or something that we've all experienced in our day-to-day life. For example, let's say something stupid like, okay, everybody in, antidepressant commercials, sing on them. Why is everyone singing in antidepressant commercials? Like pointing out something we've all wondered, right? And books and authors mistake that for funny. Just because you're pointing out something that we all can relate to or that we've all thought about, books think that is funny, and it's not. Like people mistake astuteness for like funniness or cleverness, and it's just like it's not. This book is advertised as funny, and I'm like, there's nothing really all that funny about this book. There's moments that this book is kind of clever. There's moments where this book has good observations. There's moments that this book hits on universal truths, but all of those things are not synonymous with funny. And that is a common thing in a lot of like fiction that is advertised as funny. Just because a character is meta or the character is self-aware or the character is pointing out things in our life that's a little strange or things we all can relate to does not necessarily make the book funny. So I have an issue with that. And when it keeps doing that, it thinks it's being funny, and so it kind of takes me personally out of the book. So I say that to say this: I don't love the writing in here. Sometimes I'm able to sink my teeth into it. Other times I'm not. Something did just happen in this book that is a little bit interesting. I'll just tell you, she got lost in the desert and she twisted her ankle or something. Her ankle gave out, and I'm curious what's going to happen. So I'm not going to not finish this book because it's easy to read and I'm reading it. But like, it's a little, when the moments where she's like hallucinating and shit, I do not care. You guys already know I'm hit or miss when it comes to grief. Books about people grieving, and she's grieving somebody that ain't even dead yet. And so I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this. And I think as I get older, you don't want to say this, but as you get older, you start to know more people who have died, of course. I think I would be able to appreciate books about grief a little bit more as I start to get older. So I don't like write these types of books about grief off. I do think there's going to be a moment in my life where I can have a deeper appreciation for books about grief. But in this current moment, it doesn't really do a lot for me. But I am going to finish this book. I only have 100 pages left, and we're going to wrap this video up. I have some books that I purchased this week that I'm going to show you guys. Did some little discount shopping. Nothing major, just a little discount shopping. And yeah, hello you guys. I'm here to close out the video. I have finished Death Valley by Melissa Broader, and this book for me was not good. I'm going to go ahead and give this book 2 out of 5 stars. My best way to explain my reading experience is, you ever worked at a job and someone constantly shows you funny clips online or funny tweets or funny memes, and you quickly are like, oh, me and you have 2 totally different sense of humors. You and I have 2 totally different ideas of what funny is, what interesting is, what clever is. That is this book. I didn't find anything appealing about this book. When this book tried to be funny, I was like, this is silly. When this book tried to be introspective, I found it very clumsy, lazy, thin. And there really wasn't a plot to follow in any of this stuff. And so this book was not for me at all. I did not think it was very well done. It got a little woo-woo. Y'all know that's not me. There's not much for me to take away from this book, so I didn't take away anything from this book. 2 out of 5 stars. The next book that we read in this video was Girl A. This was a mystery thriller. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's a mystery or thriller. You're actually getting like the aftermath of a mystery or thriller, and I enjoyed my reading experience of this. This was the book I think that made me kind of like think the most. Like made me like engage with like the book the most. But overall, it just was like, if I never would have read this, I kind of would have been okay. I just didn't think everything came together to make this like an excellent book. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book we read was The Measure. In this book, it was high on concept, this idea of everyone getting strings telling them their life expectancy and things happening after that. Not my type of things. Like I said, I compared it to books like The Midnight Library, even The One, books that kind of try to give you like these outlooks on life and how to view life. I think The One does it in a more interesting type of way, but like these books are not for me. It was fine. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I just know for the casual reader, they will like this book, but I think for someone who like reads a lot of books, I don't see how you could just like make this your favorite book of all time, because just kind of just, paint by numbers, it works, whatever. 3 out of 5 stars. Then we have a book like Ripe, which is basically a young woman spiraling, seeing the world is not the world she was promised, and she spirals. I think this book is able to deviate from the like, young white woman going through a mental health crisis, that genre book. It's able to deviate from that, because you guys know I really don't like those types of books, and be more interesting and have more thoughtful things to say about society. And I think it's more actualized, it's more focused, it's cleaner. And I enjoyed this book. There's really nothing for me to take away from this book, as in take away and say negative. I think this book works. I think it's a perfectly good book. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I just didn't love it. I just give it 4 out of 5 stars. The last book and the worst book I read in this video is The Whispers. This book had all the setup to be a great Kenya book. You guys know I love a domestic thriller, everyone connected, drama, who's sleeping with who did what to who. But this book just veers into like, I don't even know what becomes of this book. It does have some interesting things to say about motherhood, and if it stayed there, it could have been good. But this book becomes quite erotic, quite strange. Everyone's motives become a little weird to me, and I did not like this book. This book will probably show up in my worst books of the year, I think. So now, this one wasn't for me. Anyways, that was the end of this vlog. Boy, was this a doozy. Boy, was this a doozy. We had one book we gave 4 stars, and the other 4 sitting at 3. Yeah, this is why I don't reach for these types of books. I literally answered my question. Kenya, why do you put off these types of books? Because I picked them up not knowing if they were my taste, and lo and behold, they're not. They're not. So, anyways, I am happy though. 5 books off my TBR. That's the thing. Even when a vlog is disappointing and I don't get any amazing read, which kind of sums up all of November, at least they're off my TBR. I never have to think about them again if I did not like them. There's no question, I'm getting through them. So, anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. Why did you guys let me almost leave without showing you guys the books that I purchased? I went discount book shopping at Books A Million, one of my favorite things to do, and I got my hand on some winners. It is rare for me to go discount book shopping and find what I'm looking for, like find books that I've wanted to read but didn't want to pay full price for, or books that I've read before and now I can get them because I read them at the library. But that is what happened to me. I got my hands on 4 books, and these are all 4 books that I have wanted to read and one I've read. So let's get to the one I've already read. Do you remember during Summerween when I read and liked The Guest by B.A. Paris? Yeah, I finally have my own copy because I got The Guest from the library. Now I get to have my own copy because I give it 4 stars, and I rarely give mystery thrillers 4 stars. So no, I have that. Next, one of my most read from authors ever, Sophie Kinsella, The Party Crasher. I actually am on hold for this book at my library on Libby. I'm on hold for this book, but forget that now because I was able to get this book for discount. I'm so happy. So I've already wanted to read this book, and now I have it. And the other 2, I think, are my biggest wins. Wow. The first book I got was The Blackwoods. I've been wanting to read this book. I think on Goodreads I have it as want to read, and I've just never gotten it, and I just wasn't going to go out of my way for it. Never saw it at the library. It probably is at the library. I just never saw it. And then I saw it on discount. I'm like, now I get to read it. I would have probably never read it, but now I can because it's here. The next book, I know I would have never read because, I've seen it at bookstores. I never pick it up. But I'm like, I've always been curious about it, and I think I'm going to like it. You know this book, The Davenports. I got my hands on The Davenports. It was in the discount section. I think this is a series. It's like Black People Bridgerton. I don't know. But now I get to read and find out what the hell is going on in this book, and I get it for the cheap. So yeah, those are the books that I got this week. And now you can go. Peace.